This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome back, team. So let's get started for the today agenda, right? So we are discussing about the different storage options that the AWS is providing. We are discussing about the differences between the EBS volume, which is the block storage volume, and the object-based storage, which is the S3. And we are discussing about which storage solution will be ideal for which use cases. Correct. So if we are looking into S3, S3 is all about the object-based storage solution where we can keep the static files right in the S3. That is how the S3 can act as a no the a cloud storage to store the data as well as the supply the data to the users whenever the users are consuming it. Engineer responsible only configuring the S3 bucket and setting up the bucket permissions or maybe the required configuration to make it available, and how exactly the developers will use the S3 bucket in their code to push the data or to get the data, right? We really need not to worry about it, right? So we are discussing about the S3 bucket storage classes, right? That means there are a different type of the data that we are keeping in the S3 bucket. So just need to understand which storage class will be ideal for which type of the data. So there are important points that we need to remember here. The S3 bucket, forget about the bucket, the S3 service is the global. You see guys, when I go to the S3 service, if you go to the region selection, you don't see the option to choose the region here. That means S3 is the global service. It is not the region specific service. Okay. The EC2 Route 53 that we talk about, those are the region specific services. That means the resources that you are creating in EC2 or in Route 53 are available only for that specific region where we have created. And we come to the S3. S3 is the global service, so there is no specific S3 dashboard for each and every region in your AWS account. That is why it is a global region. We don't have the option to choose the regions here. So from the operational point of the S3 is the global service. When we are creating a bucket, we can choose the bucket data should be stored in which AWS region. This is all about the storage location, right? I can create a bucket to store the data in US East 1. I can create a bucket to store the data in US West 1, or no, I can create a bucket to store the data in AP South 1, right? So that means irrespective of the data location region, right, the buckets will be created in the same dashboard because this is the global service. Why it is a global service? Because anyway the bucket names are unique across the world, so there is no meaning, right, to have a region specific S3 services for you, right? There is one important key point. And now when you are creating an a S3 bucket, you can only choose the region. You don't have a option to choose the availability zone. Okay, so I have created a bucket here and I have selected the region in which region the data has to be stored. In that region, the AWS will take a decision. The data has to be stored in the which availability zone. Obviously, the data should be in availability zone only, as the availability zone is the actual data center, right? So now the AWS will take a decision where the data has to be stored in the particular region that you have created. So please do confirm guys in the chat window if you are having any issues with the connectivity, at least the audio, right? So thank you. It is all good. So that is what it is. So now we need to understand certain things here. Let's say I have an S3 bucket and I have kept some data in this. So definitely this particular data or these objects are stored into any one of the availability zone in any one of the hardware, right? Provided the storage capacity in the US East 1 region. What is the case if the hardware failure happen on that respective availability zone where this particular data is stored? When there is a hardware fail in the respective availability zone, so do you think there is a data loss? Do you think your objects will be lost? No, right? Ideally. So as part of the shared responsibility model, it's AWS responsibility to manage the high availability of the data that you are keeping in your bucket. No matter what is happening in the respective availability zones, no matter what is happening in the respective region, my data should be available for my business. That is what the customer expectation, correct? So the data that you are keeping in the respective bucket will be stored into the respective availability zones. So that is something will be decided by the AWS, and AWS know how to maintain the high availability of your data. That means, so based on the storage class that we are choosing, so it will vary the amount of high availability that the AWS is maintaining. I'll talk about in detail once I go to that specific object properties. Let's say I have uploaded a image object to my S3 bucket, right? So currently this particular object in standard storage class, okay, and there are many storage classes are available, and let me edit the storage class. Okay, and here you can see the multiple storage classes that are available. Let's say if I am keeping my object in the standard storage class, then we can see the availability zones here. Greater than or equal to 3 is mean that the object that you have uploaded to the standard storage class will be saved into at least 3 availability zones, or it could be more than 3 as well. That is how the AWS is maintaining at least 3 copies of your data into multiple availability zones in the same region where you have chosen the bucket. So in the US East 1 region, there are 6 availability zones, right? So possibly when you have uploaded a object to the standard storage class, AWS will be copying your data into 3 availability zones in the backend at least. That way, if there is a hardware failure at one availability zone, or at the availability zone itself is crashed for some reason, your data is still safe as your data is also copied into another availability zones as well for redundancy purpose, right? So again, confirm me guys if there is a issue with the connectivity. Mhm. So what is the problem? Give me a second guys. Right, so I just done the network switch again, so please do confirm me in the chat window if this is good now, right? So we are just discussing about the high availability of your data when you are keeping the data in the S3 bucket. Yeah, thanks for the confirmation. Right, so you don't need to worry about the data is getting stored into which availability zone. That is what I'm trying to point here. And again, if there is a uh, issue with any one of the availability zone, any hardware failures in the backend in the respective data centers, you don't need to worry. Your data is still safe. You can continue accessing your data in your bucket as is well. So AWS know how to do in the backend to do the faulty hardware replacement and doing the failover, accessing the data from the another healthy availability zone. All those things will be taken care by the backend itself. So that is one major difference. Let's say I have the data, my data is not so important, right? For some reason, if my the respective availability zone or the respective hardware is fail at AWS side, and let my data also go off, not a problem. I'm just keeping some, temporary data in the S3 bucket, and if my data gets lost, I don't see any issues. If you so, then don't go for the standard storage class. You see, there is something called one zone IA. One zone IA is the storage class name. If you are keeping the data in the one zone IA storage class, then you see the number of availability zones. That means your data will be kept into only one availability zone. There is no copy maintaining by the AWS for you. So if the respective zone is failed for some reason, your data is also gone. You don't have any backup of the data at AWS side, right? So because the AWS is maintaining only one copy of your data in the backend, so obviously one zone IA will be little cheaper compared to the standard storage class, correct? So you need to take a decision. So what is the criticality of the data? How important that the data is for you? So based on that, we need to take a decision the storage classes. Accordingly, the billing will be differ, right? So by default, when you are uploading an object to the bucket, the object will go to the standard storage class. If you don't like that, yes, you can go and choose whatever the storage class that you are looking for as per your business need, right? So that is one major difference, guys, in terms of the number of availability zones where the data will be replicated. The second major difference is the billing, obviously. The third major difference between these storage classes is the use case. You see, when you go for the standard storage class, the AWS says that this storage class is more useful for the frequently accessible data. What is mean by a frequently accessible data, guys? Okay, frequently accessible data in the sense I have uploaded a image or a video today to my S3 bucket. How frequently my image is getting accessing by my customers through my website, correct? So all the data that is there in my S3 bucket, right, finally is accessing by my users through the website only, right? Let's say if I'm having a video in this S3 bucket, so the people are started accessing my video, watching my video on the respective website. Could be a YouTube, could be the Veloxy videos that you are looking for, right? All those videos that you are looking in the Veloxy platform, right? Let's say those videos are in the S3 bucket and you people are accessing the videos from the web portals, right? So how frequently the data is getting accessed is the question. So the frequently accessed in the sense maybe, right, every minute the people are accessing the videos to play, right? Then that is called as a frequently accessible data, and that type of data can be put into the standard storage class. Let's say there is some data which is infrequently accessible. That means today I'm uploading a video to my website and maybe the people are not at all watching my video. Maybe hardly once in a month, once in a 6 months, the people are watching my video. Then that data is called as a infrequently accessible data. The infrequently accessible data we can keep in the standard IA storage class, and you can see the designed for this storage class is designed for the infrequently accessible data. So from the use case perspective, I'm talking about the differences. In the backend, AWS know how the technology has to be changed from standard to standard IA to the one zone IA and other stuff, right? So that means there are certain differences between these storage classes, at least the number of availability zones, the frequency of accessing the data, the billing, something like that. So we need to take a decision which will be the ideal for our use case, right? For the data that I'm using for my business. And so let's say that is one thing. And by default, the data gets stored into the standard. And whenever you wanted to change, we can choose the a different storage class and then proceed to save this. Let's say now I'm changing the storage class, guys. I may feel that my data is infrequently accessible, so I'm just choosing the different storage class and let me save it, right? So now, yeah, so I think I'm already in a bigger screen, so I don't think so there is an issue for you guys to look at my screen. Now you see, guys, I just go back to the bucket. Now you can see this particular object is stored into a standard IA storage class. That is how you can change the storage class whenever you want it. That is a good thing. The AWS know exactly how many number of hours the data in which storage class. Let's say how many hours the data is in standard, how many hours the data is in standard IA. Based on that, they will be calculating the billing. But the problem in real time, right? How do we decide the data may fall into which category and which will be the best storage class? Correct. So the storage class can be changed at any time. I just change it to a standard IA. Later, whenever you feel that no, the standard IA is not the suitable class for me, we can go and change it again. But the problem is, how do you know that the data behavior? And again, when I mean to say, when the data is uploaded to the S3 bucket, the data behavior will be differ. After a month of time, the data behavior may change. I'll give you the example. So today, maybe I cannot show you that in a practical, right? It's not possible as well. Let's say today I have uploaded a latest release movie in my S3 bucket, and that movie I'm just publishing to my YouTube portal. Okay, let's say whatever the portal where I'm publishing my videos. Obviously, right, more number of people will come and watch for that video because that is the latest release movie. Obviously, right. So now that data is categorized as frequently accessible data, and it's more critical for me as well because if there is a data loss, no, the people will start complaining and there is a the negative impact on my website as well. Correct. So now that data is treated as a critical data, and the data is frequently accessible, and I must be keeping the data in the standard storage class. Think of like after a year, let's say after a year, do you think the same video file will be accessing with the same rate of interest? No, right? The people will gradually come down. The number of people accessing my video will gradually come down. Maybe after a year of time, maybe there are less number of people watching my video. Why? That is very old one. Correct. So now down the line, right, your data will be categorized into infrequently accessible data. Correct. So that means Over the period of time, your data behavior will be changing. Whenever the data behavior is changing, maybe you need to go and update your storage class accordingly just to save the billing. If you don't update the storage class, not a problem. Only thing is we need to pay high, correct? Why I need to pay for the standard storage class? Why? Because my data is a infrequently accessible data. I think it's a bit best to change the storage class, correct? So, but the problem is I cannot come and change the storage class manually whenever there is certain changes are happen to my data behavior. If you have an estimation that, hey, I just have uploaded the data today, maybe for 1 month this data will be frequently accessible, maybe after a month of time this will be infrequently accessible, maybe after 6 months of time I don't need this data at all, the data criticality will be changed. So if you do so, we can automate this as well. We can set up the life cycle rules in the S3 to automate the transition of your object from one storage class to another storage class over the period of time. Correct. So now I'll show you the option how do you do that. Probably you can just choose the S3 bucket, and let me go to the management tab here of your S3 bucket. Here you can see the lifecycle rules. As of now, none. We can just click on create a lifecycle rule, and this is where we need to create a rules. Let's say the rule name, you can give any rule for this, not a problem, right? So I want this rule to be applied to all files in my bucket, and move the current version of the objects between the storage classes. Please be on mute, Mukesh. Thank you. Right. I'm just moving the current version of the objects between the storage classes, and even sometimes, down the line for next 1 year, maybe I don't want the data at all. The data can be deleted, correct? So maybe I wanted to expire the current version of the data as well. Now you can see the rules. This is where we need to focus on. By default, the data will be in the standard storage class. I wanted to change my data to standard IA storage class after 30 days. I want to change my data to OneZone IA after 60 days. I want to change my data to a Glacier after 90 days. That is how we can specify the transition rules here, and based on these rules, right, so the data will be keep moving into a different storage class automatically after this many number of days are expired. This is cool, right? So that you need not to worry about moving the data to a different storage classes manually. It will be taken care automatically based on the number of days that you have been mentioned. The number of days that you have mentioned here is the number of days since the object is created. That means if I say 30 means from the date of the object is uploaded to the S3 bucket, right? After 30 days, it will be moving into standard IA. 60 in the sense the from the date of the object is uploaded to the S3 bucket, right? After 60 days of time, the data will go to OneZone IA. That is how it is. Now let's say sometime my I don't need a data at all. The data can be deleted after some period of time, right? Whenever you feel that the data is no longer required. So that is where this is just acknowledgement. So that is where you can define the expiry time as well. You can see here the expiry time. Let's say after a year of time, I don't need the data. So the data will be permanently deleted from your S3 bucket. So that is how you can define the S3 lifecycle rules to move the data from one storage class to the another storage class based on the time period that we have been mentioned here. When you are creating an F3 lifecycle rule, and of course, this is very great to understand what is exactly happening. They have demonstrated you,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, please be on mute, guys. So
Here I have
once you
one question there. Here we are creating the life cycle, right? Is this billable or it is not billable?
Mhm. So thanks for the question. Be on mute, right?
Yeah.
You'll know, right? You'll know when I'm giving the delivery. You'll know that, right? So I think that's not an important point that we need to focus at the moment, right? Uh, Anyway, just to give the answer again one more time, right? It's a simple statement. I think I need not to give you the billable or not every time for every action that I'm doing. The only thing is, if you are consuming the storage, if you are consuming the compute, if you are consuming the network bandwidth, then those three are billable in AWS. It's a simple statement. Rest everything is not at all considered. This is just a configuration change. This is not at all a billable. Okay. But going forward, any topic that I'm discussing, if that is falling under these three category, then only a billable or else no. Okay. Even if it is billable, again there is a limit for the free tier, and that's how it is. Right. So now the question here is currently I'm defining the transition rules to my S3 bucket, and there is an option here apply to all object in the bucket. Let's say my bucket has some 100 files. I don't want to give these rules for every file. Maybe, right? These rules should be applied for only certain files in my bucket. Then that is where you need to choose the other option. Limit the scope of this rule to a particular file. That is where we need to give the prefix. So maybe I can give dpt something like that. So any file or any file path which is started with dpt will be applicable for this rule. Any other file which is started with the different path, maybe the file is not started with dpt, maybe your file path is not started with dpt, those will be excluded from this rule. That is how we can define the rules to the specific set of the objects as well if possible. Okay. And I'm sure it will be applicable for only one prefix for one rule. If we have multiple prefixes has to be put in, then we need to have multiple rules. Let's say this is the rule that will be applied for the files that start with the dpt path. If you have to add another rule for the another condition, then we can create a one more life cycle rule. Like that, we can have multiple life cycle rules can be created for the single S3 bucket with the different conditions that should satisfy your business need, right? So for now, let me take the rule for all the buckets, sorry, all the objects, and simply go and create a rule. Again, we need not to be very much interested in this particular thing, right? We will be least using this concept in real time, right? So don't worry about this, but having the knowledge about the S3 lifecycle rule is good enough, right? So I'll not be showing you exactly how the data is moving into the different storage class, because as per this particular rule, right, it has to wait for 30 days. After the 30 days only I can see that the data is moving into the different storage class as per the rule that I have been defined. That is fine. So like that, we can create one more lifecycle rule, and we can add the different set of the rules there with the different prefixes to meet the different use cases of your business. This is great, right? And now the exact use case maybe you'll be knowing in upcoming lectures case. Okay, maybe your question could be, how do we know that after 1 month of time the data must go to a standard IA? What will be the case after a month time also my data will be still be a frequently accessible data? then is it a good idea to move to a standard IA automatically? Yeah, that is a valid question. So down the line, we'll know for which type of the data, right? So we need to add this kind of a translation rules. Maybe for now, whoever can understand the concept of logging, maybe can understand. So these rules will be applied for the log files, but maybe I'll talk about that later as well when I'm uploading the logs to the S3 buckets later. Now I'll go back. I'm done with the lifecycle rule concept, right? Just to save the billing by keeping the data into the right storage class, right? And now let's say for some reason the data has got deleted. Let's say you see that there is a lighthouse.jpg file is there. The file is getting deleted for some reason. Here I'm deleting manually. Okay. Here I'm deleting manually, but let's say for some reason the data got deleted. For some reason the data has got overwritten. So now my file is gone, and right? And how do I retrieve my data back? That's the next scenario that I'm trying to talk about. That is where we need to understand the S3 versioning. Okay, so the AWS is allowing you to configure S3 versioning to keep track of the changes that are doing for your objects. So to understand the versioning, right? Let's say I have an S3 bucket where my objects are uploaded to the S3 bucket, then that is called as a version 1. Now down the line, you will be doing some changes to the S3 bucket. The change could be anything, guys. Even deleting a file itself is called as a change, or modifying the content of the file is a change. Deleting the content inside the file is a change, right? Anything that you are doing the update operation on this file is considered as a change. Technically speaking, that is called as a version. You see, I am doing some change to this particular object, then that is called as a version 2 from the S3 perspective. If you do a one more change to this object, again that is treated as a version 3. So now the version 3 is the latest version, and whatever you done the changes at version 3, those changes will be available for your business. That is called as a latest version. For some reason, maybe I do not want the latest version. I wanted to go back to the previous version or previous state, right? So that is where the S3 versioning will help you. If you don't need the changes that you did it on your object, so you can simply roll back to the version 2. If you don't like the version 2 as well, you wanted to go back to the version 1, you can simply roll back to the version 1 as well. That is how it is possible to roll back the changes of your S3 bucket by enabling the versioning here. The key points are, by default S3 versioning is disabled. If you want this facility, you need to enable the versioning. And why it is disabled by default? Because maintaining multiple copies of your data as a versions will cost you more. Why? The same object will be now stored into multiple locations in the backend as a different versions. Obviously, right? Maintaining multiple versions will cost more storage capacity in the backend, and AWS will have a extra billing for maintaining these versions. So you should really think about, do you need a versioning or not for your business case. If you need it, you can enable the versioning, and you need to bear the extra billing that is happening for this maintaining the versions, because the each version consumes some storage capacity in the backend, right? So now To enable the versioning for your bucket, if you really think that yes, the versioning is required, we can enable the versioning. So let me see the option to enable the versioning, right? I can go to the bucket properties. In the bucket properties, I can see the bucket versioning. Currently, the versioning is disabled. So now I can edit the S3 versioning, and you can see here the enable option. That is where we can enable the S3 versioning. Once you enable the S3 versioning, now you can see that there is a new tab came, show versions. This option was not there some time back. Now this option is available for you because you have added the version feature. Thing is, when you know do this toggle, you can see the number of versions that are available for your object. As of now, my object has only one version, but yes, whenever you are doing some changes to this object, it keep track of all the changes in a version. That is where you can see the number of changes that are done for your file in the show version option. So to demonstrate this quickly, so what I do is I'll just go and upload a notepad file, right? If it is a notepad file, it's easy for us to know demonstrate how the data is getting changed or doing the rollback as well, right? So I'm just adding a one liner of data to my file. Let me save the file to the desktop for now. Maybe I'll call this as s3.txt, right? I'm uploading this file to the S3 bucket. Add a file in the desktop. I have a file called s3.txt and upload the file. In real time, right, guys? The data will be get uploaded by the business automatically, right? So here I'm just uploading the file manually just to show you how the things work out. Now you see I have got an s3.txt file uploaded to the S3 bucket. If I look into the versions, this file is currently has only one version and it has the version ID. This is great. Now if you do this toggle again, this is where you can see the latest version of the file which is available for you to access, right? So let me try to access this file as well, guys. And we know that we need to add a public access to access this file. Let me give the public access. Maybe public people can read this file. Okay, I'm just modifying the access permission of this object so that the public people can access it for now. We'll talk about the best practices later, guys, right? We cannot apply the best practices at day one, correct? So to understand the concept, we should, right, just follow the common things for now. So this S3 object is having the object URL, that is where you can use this URL to access the data. So I'm just accessing this s3.txt file. Now you can see that the line number 1, right? Now what I do is I'll just do some modifications to this file, right? Obviously I cannot edit the data in the S3 itself. This is just a object based storage. What I do is I will be modifying the data on my local. This is where my file in my laptop, right? So I'm just adding the line number 2 in my local, and what I do is I'll just simply upload the file again. Upload the file, right? And let me upload s3.txt. What will happen, right? When you are uploading a file again, the S3 will check for the existing file with the same name. If at all there is a file already with the same name, that file will be overwritten with this file and it will be maintaining the version for you. That is how you will be modifying the content of the object of your S3, right? So upload the file, because there is a file already with the same name, that will be overwritten, and now it will maintain the versioning for you. You see now the S3 file is still there, and if you go to show versions here, this is where you can see the s3.txt is there. Now it has two versions. This is great. Okay, and each version has its own ID. That is how AWS is now maintaining two copies or two versions of your same file, right? Whatever you see, right, in the top, that is the latest version, and whatever you see below, that is the old version. The old version has one liner of data. The latest version has two liner of data. Now, if I access this s3.txt file, I get one liner of data or two lines, guys. So I just need to make it as a public one more time, guys. Why? This is treated as a new upload. By default, any upload will be a private access. So I need to make it as public now again, so that I can access this file from the browser just to see, right, how many lines of data is there. You see, now the two lines I'm able to access from the same endpoint. That is how the file is updated with one more line. Maybe I don't like the latest changes. I wanted to go back to the previous data only for some reason. So that is where it is possible now. Okay. If you go to the S3, right? So if you go to the show versions here, and now you can see there are two versions are available, which I don't want the latest version, right? So select the latest version, which I don't want, and delete the version. I'm not deleting the file, guys. I'm deleting the version here. Okay, if you delete the latest version, obviously the previous version will become the latest, right? So let me delete it. Done. Now if you see your bucket, you have the file still. Sorry, if you look into the show versions, your file has only one version now, right? Now if you are accessing this data, you can see only one liner. Why? I have done the rollback to the previous. That is how the S3 versioning will help you to keep track of all the changes that are done for your objects, guys. So it will help you to do the rollback to the previous whenever something is happened to your the latest modification. For some reason, by mistake, someone is overwritten your data. Yes, you can go back to the previous state by just doing the version change from S3, right? Now, in the real time also, you'll be doing the same. You just go to the show versions and delete the latest version, and the previous version will become the latest automatically. But every time when I'm uploading a file, by default, the file is in a private access. And here I'm making it into public every time because I want to access that object from the browser, because I want to verify the output here. In the real time, if the new file is getting uploaded, by default that should be a public, that should be a private. All those things will be managed by the developer, guys. Why? We are not the one uploading the actual business data to the S3 bucket, right? That is something will be done by the developer. So the developer know exactly how they need to write a code to upload the data to the S3, and the data should be a private, should be a public, what could be the permissions, all those will be tweaking by the code itself. We need not to worry about it. Why? So from the AWS side, all the objects will be private by default. If you are expecting the object to be public for some reason, the developer will be running the code logic to make it public every time when the object is getting uploaded. That is how they will be taking care of it automatically. We need not worry about no changing it into the public every time. Well, now let's say currently there is one version, right? Again, guys, we should be very careful about this toggle. You see, currently the versions are disabled. When the versions are disabled, when I say when I'm not showing the versions here, whatever you see, this is the real object. When you are looking into the real object, the object name, the last modified date of the object, this is something you can see. If you delete this, for example, that means you are deleting the main file itself. You are not deleting the version, correct? If you go to this toggle again, now whatever you see, this is the version of the file. That is where you can see the version ID as well. So this is not the main file. This is just only the version of your file. That is what is important. Okay. Now I'll show you one more scenario here. This is my main file. For some reason, my file is getting deleted. You see, I'm deleting the file itself, not the version. Okay. I'm deleting the file itself, not the version. Now my file is got deleted. Okay. I don't see my file is available now. My file is deleted. If you go to the versions now, you see deleting a file is also considered as a change of the object, and that is also considered as a version. You see, there is a one more version is created for your object. The version type, if you see, delete marker, that means it has created a version for you, but that latest version is marked as delete. That's why this file is not showing for you in the use. That's why it is not showing in the S3 for you to use this file. So if for some reason the files are getting deleted, then if you want that file to be back, what you need to do? You need to delete the delete marker. So the delete marker is the latest version, right? So let me delete the delete marker version so that the previous version will be the active. That is how your file will be restored again. Now if we come back to your S3 bucket, you can see your data back. You see your file is back again. That is how it's even help you if for some reason unexpectedly the files are getting deleted, you can get the files back again, as the delete also considered as a separate version.
Yeah, I'm Prasad here.
At any
I want Prasad here.
Mhm.
I want
At
one
any given point of the time, okay, you can access only the latest version. You cannot access the older version just like that. So if you need a older version, you must be roll back to the older version, make the older version as a latest version, then only you can access that data. You cannot access the previous versions just like that, okay, without you doing the rollback. This is great, right? So all these things may helpful, okay, when you are, you know, you got some issues in the S3 bucket, maybe some files are deleted or some data corruption, something's happened, then you get an opportunity to do the rollback. We will be using this S3 bucket concept extensively during our Terraform sessions later time, guys. Good to know. Now, from the scope perspective for you as an DevOps engineer is very limited for the S3 guys. So understanding this much of S3 concept is good enough. We will be not at all working on S3 in the real time. Maybe there is a 2% scope for a S3 bucket, right? If I talk about the 100% that we are learning, so 2% skill is enough on S3. We don't work much on this, okay? Now, so if you look at my delivery, right, so what I'm doing, I'm just trying to deploy a web application in my EC2 server, and I want to access my website, but I'm just doing some improvements now, correct? Rather me keeping the data in a EBS itself, I'm keeping my data into S3 so that I get some more advantages. That's how I'm just beautifying my deployment strategies so that I get more advantages to meet the real-time requirements. Now let me switch the gear. So I'll come back to the EC2 now. Okay, so as of now I'm done with the S3, whatever is needed at the moment. I'll come back to the S3 later again once I cover some other scenarios, okay, the dependencies. Then I'll talk about the private access and all. At least for now it is good, right? So the point which I'm trying to bring in now, and again guys, if you look at my delivery, probably I will be giving you the problem first. Hey, this is the problem that we are facing at the moment, and to fix that problem, we are trying to enhance or beautify our design by introducing a one more new service or new topic, correct? That is how I'm going to fix the current problem and getting the new benefits for that. That way we can even understand why we are switching to the new technology or new topic, right? So maybe you don't see a beautiful presentation, right? Every time I'm switching to the new topic, probably I'm not giving you any beautiful slide saying that, hey, now we are switching into the new, new index. No, you won't see that kind of thing because, uh, you know, most of the delivery will be a kind of mix and match. Okay, it's not possible to complete one topic and switch to the other topic. If you do so, you miss the real time. Okay, why? It's not like you work only on S3. No, when you work on the real time, right, you may be working on EC2, Route 53, S3, other service. There will be bunch of the tools will come into the picture. You may need to work on everything at one day itself, for some reason, to make it the real time, right? So if I follow the same strategy, maybe I cannot give you a slider that now we are switching into the new topic altogether. So maybe the way I'm introducing you the new topic by giving you the current problem that we have, and I'll give you the introduction to solve the problem, then I'll switch to the new one, guys. Okay, so that way we can meet the real-time use cases. Even now, I'm trying to give you the introduction for the new service, but before I jump on to the new one, I really wanted to talk about the problem, right? So what is the problem now? I have an EC2 instance here and I deploy a web server, and I'm following some best practices to keep the code in the server and my images, videos, static data in a S3, and finally the people are able to access my website. So all good. Let's say I'll go to the website, the people started accessing my website, right? And it is accessible. Oh, good. The worry part now is, how do I take the decision about the computing capacity of an EC2 instance? Currently, my instance is deployed as T2.micro. The T2.micro will give you one processor and 1 GB capacity, correct? I think let me close this. So this will give you one processor and 1 GB capacity. So any instruction that is coming into the server will consume some amount of computing resources. Some amount of processing and memory will be consumed to respond back to you. So the instance type is very important now. This will tell you it can support how many number of concurrent users. So what will happen if there are some 1 lakh people are accessing my website at the same time? Do you think this T2.micro instance type will be sufficient to give the response for all of the 1 lakh people? Maybe no. Why? The more number of people are accessing my system, and the server capacity is not enough to handle the load. Okay, I'm just taking one website as an example here. So what 1 lakh people are accessing my website. Okay, that is the number of users are browsing my website. So let's say I'm serving my services to this web through this website. All right, there is a 1 lakh users are accessing my website at a same time. Obviously, right, when you hit this website name uh, on a browser, the request will come to my server. The EC2 is responsible to take your request. The Apache HTTPD web server is responsible to listen on port number 80, take your request, go to the default document root folder, and give the response back to you. That is where you can see this web page is loaded, correct? So now if the I just taken 1 lakh as a huge number just to understand how much load is coming on the server side. So if there are more number of users are accessing my website at the same time, that many number of requests will come to my server, and your server should be capable to take that many number of concurrent request and give the response back. Now the really worry point here is T2.micro is having one processor, 1 GB capacity. This is may not be sufficient, okay, to respond back to that many number of users. The T2.micro may be sufficient to respond back for 1,000 number of user requests at the same time. If it is going more than that, maybe my capacity is not enough. The CPU utilization, memory utilization may go high, and it will reaches to 100% utilization of the computing capacity. Then your server will be very busy. The users will not get a website at all. They feel very slow. The server go for hung. The server will be rebooted unexpectedly because of the heavy load. All the negative impacts will happen now. So can we control the incoming traffic, guys? We cannot, right? This is the public website and we cannot control the number of users accessing my public website. Okay, so today it may be 100 people, tomorrow it could be a 1,000 people, day after tomorrow it could be 1 lakh people. I cannot control that how many people will be accessing my website. So I should be ready from the server side. Whatever the number of the users are accessing my website, my server should be capable to serve them. That is the goal that we are trying to reach now. As of now, it is a T2.micro. I'm sure this is not enough for me, correct? So I need to do some changes to the instance type when there is a more load is coming in. Hope you are getting me where I'm taking you guys, right? I'm driving towards understanding the performance issues that may arise for your EC2 instances when there are more number of people are accessing your EC2 instances. So that is where I'm trying to represent this presentation. Okay, so this is where you have taken an EC2 instance and you have deployed your web server on this EC2 instance, which is given by the AWS cloud. That is where the EC2 instance is exposing the public IP to the internet. That is where the user is accessing the website. And now you see, if the many number of people are accessing the website at the same time, all the requests are going to the same server. The server is not capable to serve them because of the less amount of processor and memory capacity, and that is where the users may feel a slowness. The website is loading very slowly. Why? The server capacity is not there. right? And even sometimes your server may go for hung state. So to fix that, maybe t2.micro is not capable, right? So what I do is I will be changing the instance type to the bigger one now to handle more number of users. What I do is I will be doing the instance type change from t2.micro to t2.large, or it could be any other based on whatever you take a decision. The t2.large instance type will give you 2 GB memory and 8 processors. At least this is the higher capacity compared to the previous one, right? Maybe this capacity will serve to the number of more users. One thing that we need to note here, when we have created an EC2 instance using a t2.micro, it's all good. When you are changing the same EC2 instance to the new capacity to meet the new load, I'm just only changing the computing resources, guys. If you see, the volume is not at all changing. The volume is still there. The same volume will be attached to the instance with the new capacity. That is what is happening here. That means whenever there is a requirement for you to change the instance type for some reason, maybe you have not taken a correct instance type to meet your business load, down the line after a month of time there is a requirement to change the instance type because there are many people are accessing my website to give the good performance to the users. I need to do the instance type change. When you do the change, the same volume will be attached. That means there is no change in the data, right? Whatever the data that you are keeping in your EBS volume level, that data will be the same. Anyway, what data is there in volume? Maybe the operating system data, maybe the HTTPD web application software, maybe the code, right? That is there in the EBS volume. That is still be available for the new instance type as well. This is one way of fixing the performance issues, guys, by changing the instance type. This instance type change is called as a vertical scaling. So vertical scaling in the sense I'm scaling the computing resources vertically. That means in the same server, I'm just adding the more capacity. This is called as a vertical scaling, guys. Now, how to do? Let's say this is the server where I'm feeling that this capacity is not sufficient for me to handle the users. So I wanted to do the type change. The process is when you do the instance type change, first you need to stop the server. You cannot change the instance type dynamically when the server is in the running state. So first you need to stop the server. Once the instance is stopped completely, then you need to do the instance type change. That's the process. Do you think when the instance is stopped, the people can continue accessing this website? Yes or no? No, right? Obviously. So when you stop the instance, there is a downtime. The downtime is mean that when the people are not able to access my website, that is called as a downtime. Yes, obviously, but there is no other way at the moment. So when you are doing the vertical scaling to scale up your computing capacity, you must be shut down the server. Once the server is stopped, then you need to go to the actions, instance settings, change instance type, and this is where you can choose the different instance type, guys. Now you can see there are number of instance types which are possible. So now we can do the change here. Maybe I just change it to t2.large for now, right? I'm just changing it into a t2.large. The t2.large is not part of the free tier, guys, but I'm just switching to that just to show you how do we change the instance type. You see, the instance type is now changed to t2.large. It will get 2 GB and the 8 processors, or whatever the capacity that is allocated for this type, you will be getting that. Once you do the type change, again, just go and start the server. That's it. Now your server is back with the higher amount of computing resources, which can serve more number of users rather the previous one. But the website is same, the data is same. Why? The same EBS volume will be available for your EC2 instance. Only the number of processors and the memory will be changing in the backend, and AWS know how to do that. So this is called as a vertical scaling. Important note that we need to consider here, the vertical scaling will require a downtime. You must be stopping the server, change the type and start it again. During the type change, the people cannot access the services. And of course, this is not a recommended approach because there is a downtime. There is a very good method as well, horizontal scaling. We'll talk about that horizontal scaling at later sessions. But as of now, yes, this is how we can do the instance type change, right? So if you don't need a downtime, yes, we need to follow the horizontal scaling method, and we'll talk about that in upcoming lectures. For now, this is how it is. Okay, well, so this is great, guys, but do you think if I change to t2.large, my problem is solved completely? No, right? Maybe even the t2.large will capable to serve only certain number of users. Maybe this is capable to serve maybe 1,000 users. What is the case if the more number of people are accessing my website beyond this limit? Again, will you do a instance type change one more time? Maybe that is not the ideal case. And again, we cannot predict the end user load as well, right? So I think it's really a matter to see the resource utilization pattern. That means in real time as well, how do we take a strong decision that yes, T2.micro or T2.large will be the best instance type for my business? On what basis they come for this decision, correct? The decision must be based on the number of people accessing my website. That is true, but how do I know that how many people are accessing my website, and how can I predict it first of all? As a public website, we cannot control them when the people can come and start accessing my website. So what I can do is at least I can track the CPU utilization of this EC2 instance for last 1 month or 2 months. Let me see the utilization pattern of my server for last 1 month, how it is behaving. Then I'll take a decision whether this type is good or not. Maybe for last 3 months, my EC2 instance continuously is using 90% of the CPU. Yes, definitely, right? There is a high amount of CPU is getting consumed. That means there are more number of people are accessing. Maybe it's better to increase the computing capacity. That is how you need to take a decision, guys. To do that, you should know how to look for the CPU utilization of this EC2 instance. That means you need to monitor the instance first. Start monitoring the EC2 instance. Look for the last 2 months of data or 3 months of data. See how the instance is behaving, how much CPU that it was consuming, how much memory that it was consuming from last 3 months of time, and few other metrics as well. To monitor the EC2 instance, the AWS has a beautiful service called CloudWatch. Okay, so CloudWatch is the another service now I'm introducing you guys. The AWS CloudWatch is the service which is only to monitor the AWS resources. Not only EC2, the CloudWatch service will monitor everything what is deployed on the AWS. The CloudWatch can monitor Route 53, CloudWatch can monitor S3, CloudWatch can monitor EC2. It will monitor everything that you have in AWS. So this will help you to understand how my resources are working. Based on that, we can take a decision. Let's say I'll go to the CloudWatch for now. What is the current requirement for me? My requirement is I wanted to know the CPU utilization of my server, right? That is what I wanted to look at. If you go to the CloudWatch, this is the CloudWatch dashboard. You can just look into the metrics tab here, guys. Under the metrics tab, you can just check for the all metrics. Okay, metric in the sense the one which you wanted to look for. Let's say I want to see a CPU utilization of an EC2 server. The CPU utilization is called as a metric. Okay, you can see the number of things here. I'm interested in looking for the EC2 CPU utilization. So just click on EC2. I want to look for the specific server CPU utilization. Look for per instance, and this is where you can see the instance ID and the metric name. You see here the CPU utilization of this specific EC2 server I want to look at. So select that particular thing. That is where you can see the CPU utilization, guys. To get the best results, let me take my EC2 server. The problem is even the terminated servers also will be available in the CloudWatch. Okay, so that's the reason I just wanted to take the server that is currently running. So this is the server that is currently running. So I want to see the CPU utilization of this specific server. In the CloudWatch, you can just search for the server. I want to look for this server. For this server, you can see there are number of metrics are available. At the moment, I'm interested in CPU utilization of this server. This is where you can see. So this is where my server is started. You see, when the server is started, the CPU utilization is around 4%. Sometime it back to almost zero. Again, after some time, the utilization is went high, and again it dropped down. So basically, this graph will tell you the CPU utilization pattern or the past period of time. Then you will know exactly the how much busy is your server. You can understand that, guys. At the moment, because my server is no one is accessing, you can see that the peak, this is very important, right? The peak, that means in the past my server, the peak percentage is 4% is the peak where my CPU utilization is went high, right? So in real time, right, when you look at the CPU utilization of your EC2 instance for the past period, if you see your instance is using 90% of the CPU, always, yes, definitely, right, the time to increase the capacity. If you see your CPU utilization is always at 10%, 20%, I think your server is at good state. So there is no more, not much load on the server. Your capacity is good enough to serve the load. Yes, I think we are good state. That is how you will be looking into the past data to take a decisions, guys. Why? We will not wait until the issue comes in. We will not wait the server go down because of the heavy load, right? The users have started complaining that the website is not working. We'll not wait till that time, right? In the real time, we need to be very precautious, right? I have to say the cautious to take a decisions immediately before we get an issue. That is where we need to watch out for this utilization at least once in a month. Maybe your manager will ask you, hey, today is the 1st of December. Can you look at the last month CPU utilization of your servers and let me know if anything is considerable. So when you look at the last month data, if you see anything is going above the 90%, yes, we need to pick up that and see what is the thing that can be done. Good thing, right? So I'm not only giving you the technical guys here just to see, hey, CloudWatch is to look at the CPU. I'm giving a lot of the background around it, why it is important and how we will be using this information in the real time. So the good thing about the CloudWatch, right? We can look at the data, how it was last 3 hours, how it was last one day, how it was last 3 months back. We can see the custom. We can go to 3 months, how it is last 3 months of time. So that is how we can see the past data. Here I cannot see anything because my server is deployed just today only. So I don't have any data for the previous dates. But in real time you can see that data because the servers are continuously running. We can go up to last 15 months as well, just to see how my server was behaving since last almost 1 year. So based on that, the people will take a decision what will be the right instance type, because we should not do the over provisioning, doing unnecessary billing. We should not do the under provisioning and having some performance issues. So this is the data that we need to consider to take a decisions, guys. Now CloudWatch is not just for monitoring the CPU of a EC2 server. CloudWatch is the monitoring tool in the AWS which will help you to monitor everything in the AWS. If you go to the all metrics, the CloudWatch will help you to monitor EBS, Route 53, EC2, S3. At least these are the four that we know as of today, right? The other thing we don't know. So even if you go to the S3, go to S3 metrics, you see this is the bucket name. It will monitor the bucket size as well. How much data is currently in your S3 bucket. It will monitor how many number of files are there in your S3 bucket, the number of objects in the bucket. Like that, every resource that you are creating in the AWS, the CloudWatch is there for you to help to monitor it. Maybe you have a concern. I have an S3 bucket. The bucket should not have more than 50 files for some reason. I can ask the CloudWatch to look at. We can come and see here how many files are there in my bucket. You see, this particular bucket is currently having around 3 or 4 files. Then it back to 0 again. So over the period of time, right, in the past, so how the behavior of these resources, all those things can be looked at in the CloudWatch. Good to know. This is great, guys, really, to monitor the resources now once it is provisioned, right? The another thing, right, let's say the CPU utilization of a EC2 instance is going at 99%, let's say. I think definitely you need an action, right? You should do some action on the server to make the CPU utilization go down, or at least you need to do increase the computing capacity. Something you need to do to fix the issue. If you are not touching that, probably the CPU utilization will hit on 100%. When it is hitting on 100%, you don't have a CPU, the server is busy, the server may go for hung state or unresponsive. The users cannot access my website. I'll not wait until that time. So I'm asking my CloudWatch, hey CloudWatch, anyway you are monitoring the CPU utilization, can you send me a email notification whenever the CPU utilization is going above the 90%? Then you will be getting an email that, hey, so and so server email, the CPU is more than 90. Can you take a look? So at least you get the opportunity to go and check the server and see why the CPU went high and what needs to be done to bring it back to down, or at least increase the capacity, or whatever. The troubleshooting step is the next thing, but as of now, first of all, I should be get notified if the utilization is going very high, right? That is important. This is the time to configure the CloudWatch alarms, guys. Okay, so I can ask the CloudWatch to send me the email notification when the usage is going beyond the threshold. That is where we need to configure the CloudWatch alarms. So the CloudWatch is having not only looking into the metrics, it has the option to configure the alarms. When you configure the alarm, when the utilization going so and so threshold, it will send you the email, guys. So now you'll be knowing exactly what is happening in the real time. So you will be getting the email notification from the CloudWatch whenever something is goes wrong, and you need to look at those alerts and logging into the AWS and see why that alerts are coming in, what is the problem. That is where you need to fix it as well sometimes, right? This is great. Now when you look into this graph, guys, right, usually the x-axis and the y-axis, right? The x-axis is all about the time. This is the time, okay? At 210, what is the utilization? 215, 220. So this is the time, guys, and whatever you see in the y-axis, that is the percentage. How much percentage in use? Let's say at 215, this is the time. At 215, the utilization is around 4%. 4% is utilized on at 2:15 p.m. or maybe a.m. Okay, so that is how we need to understand this graph. And by default, AWS is showing all of the timelines in the UTC zone, right? So this is the UTC time by default, and of course if you want to do some changes you can do, but let it be UTC only. Great. So maybe that means we are slowly jumping on to configuring the CloudWatch alarm, maybe a CloudWatch dashboard, maybe CloudWatch logs, something like that. So we'll look into all of our other scenarios in the tomorrow lecture, guys. Right? So you cannot see the number of users, guys. Why? How come CloudWatch know the number of users? If you closely look in, as part of the shared responsibility model, okay, the AWS is responsible only at the infrastructure level. Something related to the application, AWS is not responsible. Let's say how many people are accessing my website. Is this something related to the business or something related to the infrastructure? That is how we need to understand. The number of people accessing my website is something related to my business. How many people are connecting to your server is something cannot monitor by AWS, by default at least. Okay, so that's the reason you cannot ask the CloudWatch, hey, tell me how many people are accessing my website. No, the CloudWatch will not help you. It can help you in terms of the percentage. That is how we need to look at the server is busy or not. Okay, so why? The CPU utilization is something at their level. Okay, AWS is provisioning the CPU for you, and they can track the CPU utilization and they can plot it here. If you are interested on the number of people accessing my website, that is a different story altogether. We need to depend on any other different vendors who can provide you that, but not the CloudWatch alone, right? So I think that's the thing. And finally, before getting into the question hour, okay, so I'll give the thanks for unmute, right? So before jumping on to the question hour, guys, answering to the Rajesh, no, the CloudTrail will not help you on that. Okay, the CloudTrail is altogether a different thing. We'll talk about that as well in the upcoming sessions, but as of now, the CloudTrail will not give you the number of users accessing the website. Great, guys. So I think this is the great session. So please do let me know if you have any questions.
Prasad here. Hello?
Yes, Prasad.
Hello. Yeah, that matrix is for the predefined one. Can I give the customization matrix names? Because so you told for the CPU utilization. So similar, I have to prepare the script to check the data sessions users number of users are logging in the DB like that. We can can prepare that one. Can I use the customization?
Mm-hmm. So at least for now,
Yeah,
CloudWatch,
yeah.
no. Okay. So
Okay.
CloudWatch, whatever the metrics that you see there, those are the default metrics that the AWS is applying for you.
Yeah,
Please be
yeah.
on mute, guys. Okay. These are the default metrics. Whichever the AWS feels that whatever they can provide you, they are giving you that. Beyond that, you cannot do any more customization. First point. The second thing, if you need any more customization, like you need a DB connections or maybe a number of users accessing my website, something like that, which is not by default provided by the AWS, we can do at such extent by using this logs concept. So if you go to the AWS CloudWatch logs concept, where you can upload your log file from your server to the CloudWatch. Once the file is uploaded here, from that file you can ask the CloudWatch to look into that file and extract the data. That is how you can do little customization, but we will not be doing that. Why? This is not that much great in the AWS to do the customization. So those kind of the requirement will be handled through the different vendor tools. Like how the CloudWatch is there are other monitoring tools are there, right? So those will help you on that. So in real time, we'll be using them, not the CloudWatch itself, because this is not that much great to do the customization.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you.
Hi, Pierre. Without deleting the version, can we make the older version as a data?
You mean to say without deleting the current version, you wanted to access the data of the old version?
Yes, yes, yes.
You cannot, okay? Always the people can access the latest data. How you can get the latest data? You must be restoring the previous version as the latest version, then only the people can access it. You cannot access the previous version just like that.
Okay, thanks.
Right? And in terms of the capability of the CloudWatch, we need not to worry. Whatever the options that are coming in here, those are the capabilities that the AWS CloudWatch can monitor. That's it. Beyond that, it will not help you on any other thing. So let's say if you want to see what the CloudWatch can monitor on EBS, come here and see the metric names here. These are the metrics that the CloudWatch can monitor. It cannot monitor anything more which is not listed here. Right? And CloudWatch is for free, guys, for now. Okay, we need not to worry about this.
Hi, Pierre. One more question. Actually, we are changing the instance type to from this T2 micro to T2 large. Actually, is it building whenever again we are changing to T2 micro, it will building from which minutes are we consume that only they are considered to visit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, thanks for the question. So again, it's a hourly billing for now, right? So how many hours the server is in T2.logs, that will be considered. Let's say my server, the T2.logs is running for 10 minutes, let's say. Yes, they will charge for 1 hour. Okay, because the billing is not a minute level, right? The billing is in hourly. So if you are using 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 59 minutes, it's a hourly bill, 1 hour bill.
Yeah, hi Pierre.
Yes,
My
Ravi.
question is regarding storage class. So what is the difference between standard and standard infrequent access? Because the platform is same and storage is same. And
That's what I said. So from your side, the difference is only billing. Okay. The billing is little cheaper in the infrequently accessed class. The standard is little higher. Okay, there
But
is nothing else
what
is
makes this
different.
difference?
That's what, from the user perspective, only the billing difference. Maybe from AWS side, the technology may differ, that may help them to give you at least cost. You got my point. So all the data that is infrequently accessible, they may be keeping that data into a different technology in a different storage section. That is how they are treating that in a different way, and that is how they are giving you for less billing. All the data that is frequently accessible, that maybe they are keeping into different technology, different storage section altogether. That is how they are giving it for higher prices. So they have their own strategy in the backend. For you, the difference is only the billing. The performance is same, the access rate is same, rest everything, the high availability, everything is same from user perspective. Yeah, so I think I support the Rajesh statement there. Maybe the you know uh, the frequently accessible data, right? So they may be keeping the data in the flash kind of storages where the access will be immediate. Maybe infrequently accessible data, they need not to keep the data every time in the flash only, right? They may be keeping in somewhere else. Whenever someone is accessing the data, that time maybe they are loading the data into the flash storage, then they will be serving it from there. That is how they have some technical related differences where they are supporting you. From your side, it is just a billing difference.
APR, I have a doubt.
Yes, Beta.
Actually, it is in the Route 53 concept. So whenever we'll reboot our instance, our IP will be changed, no?
Mm-hmm.
I mean to say, when we are creating domain and all, we'll give record with our IP, no? If at all we'll reboot our instance, our IP will be changed. So how can I access my domain without any interruption?
Mm-hmm. So that is where, as of now, I have covered a concept called Elastic IP, right? So we need to take an Elastic IP for your EC2 server. The Elastic IP will never be changing. Though you stop it, reboot, whatever, your Elastic IP will not be changing for your EC2 server. This is changing because this is the default provided a public IP, but the Elastic IP will not change. So in real time, yes, you need to use the Elastic IP for your EC2 servers, which will not be changing.
Okay, thank you.
As of now, this answer for you. Even down the line, right? I never care about these IPs. Even I don't use the Elastic IP also. Without using the Elastic IPs, without using this public IP, I can access my website. How? We'll come to that level as well. But for now, yes, Elastic IP is answer for you.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you. So I think since you guys are here, right? So I recommend you guys to start using the DevOps Tech Talk forum and the questionnaire tracker. Sorry, the questionnaire tracker. So I'm going to run the question tracker or the questions that you have been posted in the DevOps Tech Talk forums in the Friday session. So Friday after the regular training, I'll talk about the questions that have been posted on those portals, guys. Okay. So start filling them, and if you have any questions. Okay. So I wanted to give you one more note here. Uh, Maybe once the batch is completed, usually the people start asking you, right? Hey, give me the feedback of this session. Give me your review. Whatever the review that you give, right, after the batch is completed, maybe that will help to the upcoming batches, correct? Maybe whatever the suggestions you give, it will be helpful for the upcoming batches if we at all we are taking that, doing some improvements on that. You are having the opportunity, right? Even you can give the feedback, suggestions, reviews week on week. Start thinking how you can give your review feedback on every Friday. So that feedback, whatever you give, will help for your batch only, for you guys only, right? So obviously, based on your feedback on every week on week, we will start delivering accordingly for the upcoming weeks, right? So That way your feedback will help for you only, right? Not for the someone else, right? That may you can take the benefit out of it. Okay, start looking into that as well. Thank you.
Prasad here. So, I really want that. So the PPT that you have shown in the during the session, can we have that access of those documents for the reference?
Yeah, I'm just planning for the same, Akshay. Okay, so for now, if you go to this website cloudways.com, maybe this is the new website that I'm introducing for you guys. This website will be live by next week, probably. Maybe by next Monday, this website will be live. I'll announce this website officially. So I'm planning in this cloudways.com, you will get the slides of the slides that I'm using in my presentation with the documentation. Okay, as of now, this is available for you to access, but this is in draft mode. So here you can see, for example, Linux. Okay, so we have a complete documentation. It's not like a simple article. The complete documentation is available along with the slides that I'm using, along with the detailed commands that we need to explore and other things, guys. So you see here the VA related commands are there. That's how I have planned in this website. So it will be live maybe next week, and here I'll be giving all the slide screens and the explanation. That's how I'm planning with the complete tutorial here. Okay, so just wait for some time. I think I'll publish this to you guys in next week.
Okay, so it will be the public website, right? Or the
Yeah, it's a public website only, because this is just a documentation, right? It's public website because my plan is I wanted you guys to have all the data that you wanted to look through, right? I should be provided in my portals. That's the reason. Because if you guys are going to Google, there are a number of things will come. We need to filter it out exactly, which is the most meaningful for your learning, right? That is a very concerning thing, right? That's the reason I'm trying to make you guys focusing on the thing that is needed. That's what I'm trying to put a filtered content in my portals.
Okay, thanks. It's really good. Thank you.
Hey, Pierre. Um, I mean, I'm not using TikTok, so I mean, just wondering, do you have any link or anything so that I can connect to the TikTok forum?
So any link that you are referring to, you can find it in the WhatsApp group description itself. Okay. So in the WhatsApp group description, if you go, there is a portal name called devappstechtalk.com. Okay. This is the Tech Talk forum. So in the DevOps Tech Talk forum, you can create an account and start,
Okay.
I mean to say, start posting your questions. Let's say if you go to this Tech Talk forum, there are some questions and I have started giving the answers as well, right? For every question. So give a decent question and the decent description of the question that you have, and I'll be start giving the answers. Of course, for that matter, the everyone can give the answer, whoever know the answer, but this is just a communication forum where the people can start interacting, right? That's how it is.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the Slack channel is already given the invite for everyone, but no, from the usage perspective, the people are not using the Slack at most, because most of the questions that you see you are getting, right, at least you guys are pinging in the WhatsApp for now. So I think the people are not started using Slack at all. But still, if anyone got the access to the Slack, I think just please remain in the group. We'll send the invite as well. Maybe if you want to give the weekly feedback, I think I'll give one more form for you guys. Maybe I'll create a form. I'll add that form in the WhatsApp group description only. You can use that to give your weekly feedbacks. So accordingly, my delivery will be keep changing, right? To give more betterments for you.
If we want like DPT1 and 2 Slack channel access, like when it was first configured, we had that access. Now it is removed. So can we get that?
Yeah, just please ping in the group.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
The reason why I'm asking you guys to ping in the group, because at the moment I cannot make a note of the request, right? That's the reason. So if you ping in the group later, we'll check that and do the needful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi Pierre, this is Satya.
Hi, Satya.
Just want to know, yeah, hi. How do we choose the VM configuration? Like, for example, if we take the instance 2 GB memory and 4 CPU like that, can we choose like 2 GB memory and 8 CPU or 16 CPU like that, or else any dependency like that?
Mm-hmm. That is where we are focusing now. Okay. Initially, you start with something, then start looking into the previous data, how the server was behaving, how much the CPU utilization on the server for last 2 months, last 3 months. Then we need to take a decision which will be the right instance type. You cannot take the right instance type on the day one. Okay. Probably start taking something, maybe 2 GB, sorry, 2 processor, 8 GB RAM, something like that, and take a decision later based on the past data. But you cannot take your own set of the combination, right? So as we see, when you are creating an EC2 instance, you should take only the type from here. The combination is something already defined by the AWS. You see, if I take T2.micro, you will get one processor, 1 GB. You cannot take one processor, 8 GB. Well, so I think I'm back now. Okay, there is a small network glitch, right? Uh, yeah, please do confirm, guys, on the chat window, right? Yeah, so now you are able to hear me. So what I'm saying, right, you cannot take one processor and 8 GB. Why? That combination is not available. So whatever the combination that the AWS is providing, you need to take only that combination as that instance type. You cannot choose your own combination. That is what I wanted to give a note here. Yeah, I think this is great, and thanks guys for your time today. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll come up with one more beautiful story.
Thank you.